we're about to hit the peak where whoop, it's going downhill.
Yeah.
So it starts, where's my son?
Yeah.
And then at some point it's like, so like what kind of bureaucratic processes do you follow? Hello, welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Ryan. I've been playing TTRPGs for about a decade now, and this week I got to run a Rune Lich, and I ran him entirely like troll-based.
Oh my gosh.
So he used every illusion and deception, like every spell to mess with the players, not to kill them, knowing that he would die and come back in his phylactery. It was great.
Yeah. That combat I showed halfway in the middle of, and it ended one round later. So I did a lot in that one.
Hey, I played you up until you got there, and
true.
I did so fantastically. Thank you.
Sam had my character sheet and was basically using me as a flying broom.
Yes, I was.
For character, since I have at-will flight. But yeah, hey, I'm Tyler. I've also been playing TTRPGs for a decade, and this week, in a different campaign, my character got knocked out twice in the midst of trying to fight his childhood friend who was possessed and insulting me like a jerk. That combat was also kind of rough, but, we made it work.
And I'm Sam. In Ryan's encounter with the Rune Lich this week, I got to use Divine Armageddon, which is just as excellent as it sounds. And then in our other campaign, my character got to turn into a bear.
It was
good. Also excellent. I had a great week of roleplay.
You did.
So, speaking of great things, last week we wrapped up our 10th episode, so we just wanted to give everybody a little bit of some fun facts now that we're 10 episodes in. We hit over 1,000 listens this week, which amazing! Thanks, everybody! Well, we like hearing ourselves talk, but we're glad that you all do too. Just some fun facts about that 1,000 listens. 10 countries so far have listened to all of our episodes. Another 9 countries have checked us out. Tyler's going to have to tell me what that means.
When I say checked us out, we have 11 episodes. And if a country or place has had 11 listens or more, I count it as they have listened to all of us. But some of them have like 1 or 2 or 4 listens. And I'm like, I mean, if you're catching up, sweet. But some people, might listen to us and then not really vibe with it. So, and that's okay.
Fair.
Yeah. So that's what check us out mean. Like, you haven't listened to all of our episodes yet.
All right, but gave us a chance.
Yeah,
took a shot.
We appreciate, we understand you might show up for that date and decide that we are not as cool as you thought we were on Tinder, and that's fine. We get it. So anyway, most of our listens have come from the US, which fair, but we've also had listens from Australia, Germany, the UK, Poland, Canada, Finland, Singapore, Ireland, and Denmark. So thanks, everybody. In the US, we have 22 states that have listened to everything, 13 more that have checked us out, which I just really love these stats because I think they just show how Pathfinder is accessible for everybody, and it's just really cool to be part of a community that expands the globe, essentially, which is excellent. So thanks everyone for joining us so far. We really hope that you'll continue to stick with us as we continue to journey around Golarion. We are trying to be more active on social media. So if you want to connect with us, the best way to get a hold of us directly is DMing us on Instagram. We are at Tabletop Travel Guide. I'm going to try to man that a little bit more often. So if you have any questions,
I have been horrible at it.
I'm taking control. But yeah, if you have anything that you've enjoyed or anything that you'd like to hear, just shoot us a message and let us know. And we would love to connect with you that way.
Yeah. Again, appreciate everybody's time. But now we have to talk about a somber note, everybody. I got a letter after our last episode from the Imperial Ministry of Historical Accuracy.
Oh,
Tyler has pulled out a
Cheliax.
trifold piece of paper.
It is a legal document that I've unfortunately gotten from Cheliax. They were not entirely pleased with our last episode.
Uh-oh.
And so this is a section of things we misspoke on last episode, just to clarify, to make sure we are on the up and up with Cheliax and their Imperial Ministry of Historical Accuracy.
It's kind of impressive how quickly they turned that legal document around.
Yeah, they're very good at this. They have their hellbound lawyers really
prepared.
really prepping. So let's begin. The Even-Tongue Conquest is celebrated. We talked about that, but it is celebrated as signing day by the 4 nations that were part of it: Isker, Galt, Andoran, and of course Cheliax, because it wasn't just independence. It sealed Cheliax's fate as the ruler of nations.
Of course.
Of course. Yes,
Yeah.
The ruler of nations, Cheliax. I apologize for saying it was anything else than the ruler of nations.
Okay.
And then we talked about how the winged men of Devil's Perch, they were not betrayed. They rejected freedom offered by Cheliax and are therefore heretical.
Ah. Are we allowed to say their name of...
The winged men
Cool.
of
Okay,
Devil's
the
Perch
winged men.
are
Yep.
heretical.
Yep.
Sargava, down in Garund, was always ungrateful, even before they rebelled against House Thrune.
Uh-oh.
You cannot laugh about this. This
I'm
is
sorry.
very serious.
I'm so sorry.
Ryan,
I'm
jeez.
so sorry.
You're gonna get another sanction.
We're gonna get censured. So they were always ungrateful, even before the fight. The Everwar was not to expand borders, like we said in the last episode, but to bring freedom and peace to the north and east.
I should have known. It's a peacekeeping operation.
It was a peacekeeping operation.
Ah,
It
of
always
course.
is.
Of
Yes.
course.
So it was a glorious endeavor of peace. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Okay.
The next thing is that Aerodin failed to fulfill his prophecy and abdicated his power, which allowed the chaos of the Civil War to begin. He failed on his legal contract.
Oh yeah,
To-
he screwed up.
Yes.
It was his fault.
Yep, it was his
Okay.
fault. And then the situation with Multhune was nothing like Cheliax breaking away from weak Taldor. It was completely different. A completely different situation. They have not expanded on how, but it was.
Just like hard stop. It was
Hard
different.
stop. It was different.
Okay.
Oh.
Don't ask.
Okay.
And finally, House Thrune didn't make a deal to serve Hell. They bound Hell to their will and now have a partnership. So we apologize for how much we misspoke. This is probably the most incorrect episode we've ever hosted as of last one. But thank you to the Imperial Ministry of Historical Accuracy for helping us correct these mistakes and letting us continue to tell the story of glorious Cheliax. Please don't send any Inquisitors to our
Please,
house.
please, no Inquisitors.
Yes. Okay. We talked about making this whole thing continue throughout the entire episode, but that'd be a little much. But
What? Tyler, I do not get to meet an Inquisitor? I am shocked.
we'll find out. Be careful. As we dive into what Cheliax currently is, we made the kind of things we misspoke. It's kind of good fun, but it is true that Cheliax these days has an entire ministry that sends out a new edition of Chelish history every 3 months and collects all
Every
the old
3 months?
3 months.
Is there really that much stuff to change? Like, I feel like that is a lot of revision.
That's
So
exhausting.
normally it's less about the history of the Chelish history, and more of like if you are a noble or family that like angers House Thrune, you basically get stricken
Oh.
from the record.
Brutal.
So like
Oh.
you can find yourself in good favor 1 month, and then like 3 months later, literally have been written out of history.
Brutal.
Yeah. With that lovely fun fact in our heads, let's dive back into the history of Cheliax, shall we?
Okay.
And if you
Okay.
haven't listened to the previous Cheliax episode, now would be a great time
Yes.
to reacquaint yourself with why we are starting in such a dismal
You
place.
might
Yes.
be real confused.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to the last one, check it out. Cheliax Part 1, it kind of goes into the history before the devils have hit the
The
scene.
heretical history.
Yes, the heretical history, which some have happened and some has not. Anyway, where we left off. At the end of the Civil War of Cheliax, House Thrune has taken control by binding Hell to its servitude and making a partnership.
Cool.
This was 4639, so we're looking a little less than 100 years ago, present day, where House Thrune has secured itself as the leaders of Cheliax.
Mhm.
Like anything else, after 30 years of civil war, there's a lot of consolidation and rebuilding that has to happen, right? The first command that House Thrune did is to establish diabolism and the worship of Asmodeus as the official state religion.
I mean, if you're going to go all in.
All in.
You just go all in.
Yeah, right? They moved the capital from West Crown to Golarion, which are two different places in Cheliax. And then they also demanded fealty from their provinces and renewed fealty, which we talked about in a few previous episodes, the Galt and Andoran episode. They did not like it. So around 30 years after Thrune took over, that's when Galt and Andoran declared independence in 4667 and 4669 AR respectively. From a history perspective, the few other territory shifts we'll talk about, and I just want to get these out of the way, and then we'll kind of talk about Cheliax as a country currently working. Nidal to the north made a deal with House Thrune during this war that in return of serving and backing House Thrune as a country, they would get their independence after the war. And to House Thrune's credit, they honored that agreement. So in 4640, they gave Nidal its independence.
Oh, that's very kind.
Yeah. And they've been very strong allies ever since, because Nidal, as we will get to in a future episode, they are very okay with
super weird stuff.
Super weird evil things. So serving devils as Cheliax is like a Tuesday for Nidal.
Great.
And then Ravenel, which is kind of northwest. Yeah, northwest of Cheliax along the I can't remember what bay it is, but it's along the kind of the ocean there. They really hated everything that Cheliax stood for and managed to find a loophole in some of the contracts that created, like, that House Thrune used to kind of bind all of Cheliax together to become independent very recently, like 6 years ago.
Legal loopholes.
Yeah, literally they used a legal loophole to basically become independent.
Amazing.
And so it is a country that basically fights against everything that Cheliax stands for. They are very much anti-devils, anti-slavery, anti-all that stuff. They do not like Cheliax. But as being landlocked by Cheliax against the ocean, they kind of like have a tenuous relationship that make it work. But yeah, those are the kind of main events that have happened up until present day. So let's talk a little bit about current Cheliax and how it's operating. One thing I didn't realize when I researched this episode is we've talked about Abrogale Thrune as the, current leader of Cheliax, right? But I didn't realize that the Abrogale Thrune that took control and bound the devils is not the same Abrogale Thrune that is currently leading.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was Abrogale the First, and currently Abrogale the Second is leading Cheliax.
Is that like her daughter then?
No, so actually there was, in between the two Abrogales, there was 4 other rulers. So,
like most monarchies, we're going to reuse names to everyone's confusion.
So Abrogale Thrune, the first one, took power in 4640, give or take, and ruled for 32 years. So she was actually, she was around for a while. But then she was murdered by her son in 4672, who then crowned himself king.
That's illegal.
Not in this case. It worked out.
Did it work out?
In his case, it did not work out. So he only reigned for 2 years. And then he died in 4674 due to improperly prepared fish, supposedly. There's a lot of big, quote unquotes, like, it was accidental. There's a lot of accidental deaths.
Sure.
In the Thrune.
At the risk of the Inquisitors showing up.
So, yeah, so that was Antoninus the First, who died after 2 years. Then his cousin Terthul Thrune, that's a mouthful, took over, and he ruled for 8 years before mysteriously disappearing in 4682.
Mysteriously disappearing.
Yeah, no one knows what happened to Terthul Thrune.
He is never heard from again.
Yes. Presumed dead, obviously. His niece, Corelia, took power. She reigned a little bit longer. She reigned for 14 years. And then she drowned under mysterious
Oh my gosh.
circumstances.
Drowned. Okay. Okay.
She couldn't swim, Ryan. They didn't have swimming lessons in Cheliax.
I'm going to stop you at mysterious drowning.
Mysterious drowning.
It's pretty tough to mysteriously drown if you're a member of royalty.
Look, so it is mysterious. It is difficult to mysteriously drown, but her cousin, Infrexus, took power and did zero investigation of the drowning.
So the real mystery was, could she swim? We don't know.
Yeah, so as the person
Mystery.
who did zero investigation, we don't know anything, but draw your own conclusions about Infrexus,
Okay.
who he made it about as long as his cousin, so he made it 13 years, and then, coincidentally, he also drowned.
Yes.
He fell through the ice and drowned in the Adivian River in 4709.
Mysterious hypothermia, perhaps?
Mysterious hypothermia.
That seems less mysterious. Through the ice.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's walking out on ice in the
He
middle
was
of...
obviously having a nice ice skating situation, little party. Oh, the ice was thin.
Man, yeah, I hate when I just accidentally find myself on a frozen river.
Don't you
Look,
hate that?
guys, as someone who accidentally fell through ice as a dumb high schooler, like, it happens, okay?
I mean, yeah,
But yeah, you weren't like royalty.
you didn't have the
Ouch.
secret...
Tyler, how dare you?
You didn't have like imagine like the president, like the Secret Service agents, and say, sir, you can't go out there.
It's like, you can't tell me what I can do. I assume he was probably dumb in like 12. I don't know. But it's at this point that Abigail's the first great-granddaughter,
Oh, okay.
the young Abigail Thrune II, took the power and was crowned the Infernal Magistrix.
It's a good name.
Yeah, and so, that was 4709, so it's been about 14 years so far, and she has avoided an untimely death.
So that ties her for second most or third most?
Second most.
Okay.
Second most because her great-grandmother went 32 years. So
Okay.
she's got about another, 16 years to tie the
Okay.
record of...
Is everyone in leadership in Cheliax called the Infernal Magistrix or Magistrate, or did she crown herself that?
I think she was crowned that. The only reference to Infernal Magistrix was when it's talking about Abigail II.
Okay.
So I think if it was before, I'm not sure, but it is now.
Okay.
Okay. So that's kind of the history, right? We're up to current day. Abigail's doing her thing. So let's talk about the country and kind of how it works a little bit. Because it's both very simple and kind of complicated, right? One of the big things that is overarching everything is obviously religion and the worship of Asmodeus and diabolism. As we talked about a little bit the last episode, it's kind of unfair and not entirely true to say that everybody's all in for devil worship and like that's their life, right? And it kind of differs between the commoners and the nobles.
Okay.
So rather than for the commoners, it's about paying lip service. They say all the right things. They have their mandated shrines to Asmodeus in their houses. But most, honestly, kind of just live their lives and then quietly worship other gods. Basically, it's more of a protection of, like, I do all the right things so that I don't get reported to the Inquisitors and the Hellknights and get mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah, or like if someone if an Inquisitor ends up in their house, they'd be like, no, here's my shrine.
Yeah. It kind of provides, one of the things that all of the people, they have incentives to sell out their neighbors.
Oh, good. Very healthy.
Yeah, it's very great. So most of them just kind of go through the motions, right?
Okay.
On the noble side, it's kind of the opposite, where they are trying everything to outdo each other with their displays of devotion, with the hopes that it gains them favor with the powers that be. Basically, they are all about, look how much I serve Asmodeus, look how much I serve Asmodeus, and I do all this. Whereas the commoners kind of see it as a protection from dying, the nobles see it as a tool for power. The more they show out and show up that they are worshipping Asmodeus and doing their acts of devotion, the more favor they will incur and the more power they will have. But obviously most want the tool for power, but few think of the long-term ramifications of what that means.
Right.
Which is, the more deals of devils you make, the more,
The more you dig that hole.
Yeah, you're kind of digging that hole for your eternal soul, and everyone's just kind of agrees that, you know, we're going to live the life that we have, and we know where we're all going.
Oh boy.
Other than that, you basically have the people who are definitely all in on Asmodeus. I'm not saying there aren't evil people who are serving Asmodeus. Obviously, House Thrune and like the top is very much making power deals with devils, doing all that, like all in. But most people just kind of like live their lives. They like the lawful aspect of Asmodeus, maybe not the like evil aspect.
Fair.
It's like, I mean, it kind of like they piecemeal the parts of the religion they enjoy, right?
Okay.
And then some people just grow up with it, and it's like, yes, that's normal. So we let's pivot a little bit to the government. So unlike Druma, which is part religion, part noble, or Andoran, which is kind of more like our country, the government is officially an imperial bureaucracy of noble families.
Okay.
But it's kind of like a monarchy where House Thrune is at the top. Hard stop. House Thrune is the top of the food chain. Their ruling is absolute. Abigail II, her word is absolute and inescapable, and she's also constantly changing her mind. So we talked about things,
right.
You know, she'll make edicts and then make different edicts and then do all kinds of stuff. So like every 3 months, again, they come out and they rechange history. So like something she says 3 months ago might just disappear because she's like, she's changed her mind. But yeah, so basically you do not want to get on Abigail's bad side because she is effectively the rule of law.
How bad would it be if like you got one of those updated history books and you're like, oh gosh, my whole family's been removed from this book. Oh no.
I feel like you would know before the book came out.
Yeah, I would imagine you would be dead by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
I mysteriously drowned.
I think
or at least kicked out of your house. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think generally if it would be more of like if your neighbor was like looked at the book was like, my neighbor's not in the history books anymore. What happened to Joe? Like,
oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like if you're the ones on the receiving end of the ire, you probably are dead before it kind of works out.
I imagine though that's like a pretty intense like political game though, because if you think about like, I mean, she's got absolute power, right? But if it's a bureaucracy of nobles, if you want any say, you have to be noble for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're like on her good side, you might be able to like get to different places of power, but it sounds like you're constantly on tiptoes to make sure you don't displease her as well.
That's a dangerous
I don't want to
game.
get political, but it's as if you have somebody who like is very chaotic and will just throw you under a bus in the US as a president. I don't know. Just basically you never know where you stand with somebody until you're no longer needed.
Brutal.
Yeah. So below House Thrune, you have the noble houses. And basically, most of the old houses from pre-Civil War have survived. But the power dynamic has shifted based on how quickly you converted to diabolism. So like the ones...
it's your upline and your downline.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Like honestly, the ones who have found the most power and favor are the ones who turned real quick.
Who jumped on that train.
Yeah, and like jumped on House Thrune.
Yeah.
And so the noble houses below that, they control different parts of the country, and they kind of follow normal monarchy type things. They have dukes, counts, and barons, and then those are split into 3 subgroups, so where you have 9 total modeled after the 9 rings of hell, because of course we like heavy-handedness.
Great. Cool.
So yeah, you have like archdukes, dukes, and then paradukes. And then same with archcounts, counts, paracounts, etc. Okay. But yeah, and then they rule their sections of the country. And then you have the military, which is separate from the Hellknights. I didn't know this, but like they also have just a massive standing military that beyond the policing force just can do stuff. We talked about how they are a kind of a military power, and a naval power. So they just have a big standing military. And then the kind of laws of Cheliax, they're based on the Asmodean principles, which is hilariously also the religious text of the country.
Oh.
So it's like 1,000 pages of very in-depth laws.
Oh boy.
That both talk about every possible aspect of normal life in Cheliax, but it's also means it's very hard to regulate and enforce, because if everything you do is part of the law, then like obviously it's hard to police that. So really kind of it's very much enforceable until it needs to be used for the undesirables. So basically they're like, we can't really enforce the law until you get on the law's bad, or you get on somebody's bad side, in which case we're just going to pick a law and then make you disappear.
Like you're probably violating 6 laws going down the street to the grocery store.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, you're probably violating laws at all time, and it's only till when you like make a fuss or something, or get called on by your neighbor or something, that like they decide to come in and enforce that law.
Okay.
So we use an unachievable standard to root out the people we don't want to deal with anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like, oh yeah, well, he was not following the law, and everyone's like, you're right. Yes, I love this place. It's great.
Great.
And then again, they give incentives, like I said before, for citizens to spy on each other, which is more prominent in cities. In the rural areas, they have other ways to, handle their law and whatnot. Which brings us to a place I want to stay for a little bit, is the Hellknights. So we talked about Eagle Knights, we've talked about the Black Jackets, we've talked about the, Army of Taldor. So the Hellknights are the policing force of Cheliax, but they have several orders that kind of serve different purposes. And it's really cool, and I kind of want to dive in a little bit.
Okay.
So the founding of the Hellknights, which we mentioned in the last episode, was actually pre-Devil situation.
Mm-hmm.
It all started with Dadian Ruel, who is basically acknowledged as the first Hell Knight.
Mm-hmm.
His family was killed by a cult called the Path of Grace back in 4575. The Path of Grace followed a demon lord and basically posed as Erodenites.
Yeah.
Followers of Aroden. Yeah. That's what. So they and then they use that like infiltration to then have a string of murders and suicides called the White Plague. For several years. So his family was murdered by this cult.
Ugh.
And so the problem was there were cult collaborators in the upper classes at the time. And so he was kind of denied justice for his family. They just shut the book on it, didn't investigate, didn't do everything.
And he thought that the people that killed his family were followers of Aroden, correct?
Well, yes.
Or not quite.
It's not clear, but it was, even if it was clear that this cult that weren't followers of Aroden killed his family, it was clear that the quote-unquote followers of Aroden in the upper class refused to do anything about it.
Okay.
So in some form, Aroden had failed his family. So he forsook his faith and became a vigilante and formed a group to hunt down, beat up, and murder cultists.
I'm Dadian.
Yes.
I'm like not mad about that.
No, I was kind of a fan. But then the West Crown authorities were not a big fan of like him being vigilante, so they arrested him a year later. But like hours after he got arrested, all of his followers broke him out against his orders.
Amazing.
They were like, we are protecting you, or we are saving you. He's like, I don't want this. And they're like, we're saving you. And they basically took him to an abandoned fort that was in like an effectively Talden ruin area.
Okay.
But then he didn't just give up. He came back to the city and basically made an impassioned speech to King Gaspadar, which, remember, he was the one prepping for Aroden's return.
Yeah, he was the prepper, yeah.
Yeah, so he made an impassioned speech about the corruption and chaos in the upper classes. And Gaspadar was so moved that he both pardoned Ruel and commissioned him to form a knightly order.
Oh my gosh, he is Batman.
That's a swing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so the actual reason they're called Hell Knights is not, in, I think last episode I said because they're formed after the Legions of Hell. That's not how they got their name. They got their name because he was very publicly and repeatedly rejecting Aroden because he was failed by followers of Aroden. So like his knightly order hated Aroden, and all the Aroden followers were like, well, if they're not following Aroden, they might as well be following the Legions of Hell. So they're all Hell Knights. And Ruel was like, yes, that sounds awesome.
That's metal.
And so he basically took on the moniker of Hell Knight because he was just like, yeah, stuff it, Aroden followers.
Well, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm actually okay. I'm rooting for the Hell Knights now. Okay.
Yeah. So the organization of the Hell Knights, it actually continues on with his story, right? So he became obsessed with the idea that his son's soul was in hell. So he learned how to summon devils and interrogate them. He started summoning devils, interrogating them, and then kind of actually became interested in how they were all set up. like the legions of hell, and so started organizing the Hell Knights.
This is like where we hit like the switch to the villain arc. It like started off good and like good intentions, and then we're about to hit the peak where whoop, it's going downhill.
Yeah.
So it starts, where's my son?
Yeah.
And then at some point it's like, so like what kind of bureaucratic processes do you follow?
I mean, yeah. Basically the name of Hell Knight came first, and then the organization around Hell came from there. And then and then after that he disappeared. He fell under the influence of a Gelugon, which is an ice devil, who basically convinced him that like he could find ways to get his son's soul back.
That seems.
And he
like
kind of
it's not
disappeared
correct.
soon after that, and so no one
Okay.
really knows where he went. Yeah, it's kind of a unknown and unfulfilling ending for Dadian Ruel. But beyond that, after kind of the next leaders kind of reformed, and the Hell Knights under the organization of the Chitska Imperium that we talked about, which we'll talk more about. So then I did also want to talk a little bit about all the orders, because they're super cool.
So then just so like the government stepped in and like kind of took the Hell Knights over, sort of?
A little bit. They kind of reorganized themselves.
Okay.
So they're definitely like still part of the policing force, but they're government sanctioned, kind of.
Okay.
Depending on where you're at. And some orders are more closely tied to the government than others.
Okay.
So the orders of the Hell Knights, unlike other places, they kind of don't they're all about law, right? They aren't inherently evil. They almost just don't care about morality at all. They replace kind of morality with discipline and call it a day. So most of the Hell Knights are all very just lawful, and then that's it. And they will do whatever jobs are needed based on their order. And then they also, each order has their own like cool armor, very notable armor, and it's very all intimidating, and they're rarely seen without their armor on. I kind of like to think of the Hell Knights as a combination between like Mandalorians and if you've read Stormlight Archive, the Skybreakers, who are like all about, this is the law. We will follow the law at any place we are at, but we will follow the law. Like, it's not about good or bad. It's about what the law says. So they train by fighting devils that they summon, which is interesting because, you know, they like kill devils.
It's like summoning. They don't kill them though.
Yeah, I guess they just send them back. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
sparring match, dead. You're gone. And actually, how you become a full Hell Knight, you have to fight and win against your first like summoned devil.
Oh,
Yeah.
Trial by combat.
Oh my
Woo!
gosh.
Yeah. So until you're a full Hell Knight, you're an armiger, and then once you like fight some summoned devils, then you become a full Hell.
That's high stakes.
Right? So the different orders, you have the Order of the Scourge, which is the oldest order. I think last time I might have said that the Order of the Rack was oldest. That was wrong. They seek to root out corruption in any form, which kind of makes sense as the oldest order created by Ruel. Like, they're out for fixing corruption.
Okay, kind of like true to his message.
Yeah, kind of true to what he was doing. And then you have the Order of the Chain, which is the country's premier manhunters or bounty hunters and jailers.
So there's your Mandalorian.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they are all about like tracking down people who are not or benefiting society and like taking them to jail. You have the Order of the Gate, which focuses on summoning and treating with fiends. So where all the rest of the orders are a lot of like fighters and then a couple of devil summoners that like work together, the Order of the Gate has predominantly magic users.
Okay.
And they're the ones that kind of make all the other orders nervous. They're like, not sure about that, guys. You're going to be summoning that many devils? Unclear. And then you have the Order of the Nail, which focuses on quelling savage practices and bringing civilizations to inhabitants of the wild frontier, which is like the highly problematic version of the Eagle Knights.
Yikes.
I read that one. I'm like, that's very problematic.
Okay.
And then you have the Order of the Pyre, which seek out blasphemous witches, warlocks, cultists, shamans, and mystics, throughout Aveston and purges them through fire and blade.
Oh.
Oh, look, we're burning witches.
Yes.
Yay.
And warlocks and cultists and shamans. It's fine.
In every world.
Great.
It never stops.
Yeah,
Great.
not great. So yeah, if you're a witch or a oracle or something, watch out for the Order of the Pyre.
This bodes poorly for my character.
Oh no. Okay. So you have the Order of the Godclaw, which basically took following the like religious law as they're kind of the religious zealots when it comes to following the law. They actually don't just follow Asmodeus, but they follow 5 lawful deities: Abadar, Iomedae, Asmodeus, Irori, and Torag, which kind of run the gamut of alignments, but they're all lawful. And so all of the like the Godclaw, which is actually a pantheon, you can have you can like worship
Follow
as,
the Godclaw?
Yeah, you can follow the Godclaw.
Interesting.
And so basically they are here to stamp out disorder and beings of chaos. Their whole thing is like, we are lawful. And it's like, why? And they're like, because law.
They seem okay. I don't know. That seems okay.
Yeah, honestly, it's like probably not.
They don't seem horrible.
Yeah.
I like
Well,
them
if you're
better
not
than
like good or bad, as long as your laws are not terrible, then it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And then you finally have the Order of the Rack, which I mentioned briefly last episode, but they are the most loathed of the orders. If there's an order that's gonna kick in your door, raid your house because your neighbor told on you, it's the Order of the Rack.
Great.
They're also the ones who run or enforce the Imperial Ministry of Historical Accuracy. So like they are the ones who will kick in your door, take all your stuff, give you the new history, and then burn it. And then if you happen to have any leftover history books, you will be in trouble by the Rack.
So they're the ones that are probably like most closely aligned.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like if you have a bunch of places or like a bunch of orders, so you're like, oh yeah, they're like working in and around Avestan. You have the Order of the Rack, who's like, hello, House Thrune, like the direct reporters to House Thrune.
Oh, okay.
Overall, that order is not great. You have a couple other orders who are less well known. We won't get into those, but yeah, that kind of wraps up the Hellknights, which we can do a whole episode, but I'll stop it there. But to kind of wrap up like Cheliax in general, it's still a mighty power in Avestan, unlike kind of Taldor, who has lost some of its charm after losing a lot of its territory. Cheliax is like condensed its territory, but is still a powerhouse.
Okay.
They still control the Arch of Eridan. They still control this, like they still have a high navy power. You have Ravenel, who's like trying to fight back, but obviously it's a tiny country that's covered, right? So they're still a mighty power. Their history is being constantly rewritten. So even in their own, like as you grow up, the things you might remember might not be canon in Chelish history as you grow up. And it's all kind of the whims of a absolute ruler with absolute power, right? The Hell Knights are doing their thing in and out of Cheliax, and yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We started in a place where the Chelish people were looking for power, right? They had that Taldan ambition and kind of took it, I think, obviously too far, and kind of are now just kind of dealing with the consequences ? But it's like not short-term consequences. They're getting a lot of power now, but like no one's thought about the long-term consequences of most of their souls are probably going to hell.
That bill's probably going to come due at some point.
Yeah.
It's an immediate gratification kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. All that said, hopefully this episode won't be taken down by the Ministry of Historical Accuracy, but make sure to listen quick just in case. And that's where we're at.
Nice. Well, thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
All right. Sam, anything else?
No, I am just overwhelmed by hell and the law and thinking about all of the things I'm probably doing every day to break the law.
It would get exhausting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. Well, with that, I think we're going to take a moment to hear a word from our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll talk campaign and character.
Have you been caught on the wanting end of power? Do you seek control in your life? Do you need a quick and easy fix to all of life's problems? Make a deal with the devil and reap all the benefits. Call the law firm of Day, Mav, and Iga. All consultations are free, and our hellbound attorneys will come directly to you. And remember, we don't get your soul until you get your power. Infernal contracts are binding documents that are signed in blood and will detail the exact terms of benefit and payment. Infernal contracts are non-transferable. If you die while under the agreement of an infernal contract, your soul will be consigned to hell and cannot return to life until the terms of the contract have been reached. Each infernal contract will contain a termination clause that will be determined at the time of the agreement.
Thank you to our sponsored law firm, Day, Mav, and Iga, for their wonderful partnership with us. And I think now it's time to talk some campaigns. So, Sam, if you'd like to talk a little bit.
I do want to talk about campaigns. So, Tyler and I did not talk about what was going to happen in today's episode. So I also found the Hellknights to be the most exciting part of Cheliax.
Good.
Yeah.
So, of course, we are going to do a Hellknight campaign.
I'm really worried.
It's okay. It's going to be fine. I don't know that for sure. I'm just going to say it. All right. So we are going to be in the Order of the Gate, which Tyler briefly mentioned earlier. The Order of the Gate is in a part of Cheliax that's closer to the Menendor Mountains. Their territory also encompasses the Whisperwood. We talked about it earlier, but their whole bag is summoning and working with fiends. And the majority of the Hellknights in their order are the ones that are using arcane and divine magic, which is a little bit different than the other orders. So they're like a 3-to-1 of like magic users to none. So the party for this is going to be a group of Armigers, which is our like novice. You haven't taken your test yet. And they are about to start on some of their trials to become full Hellknights.
Ooh.
Part of this is going to the Whisperwood. So the Whisperwood is the largest forest in Cheliax. It's on the east side. It is rumored that there is an unclosed portal to hell somewhere in the woods. And for reasons that are unknown, the government is a little bit wary about this unclosed portal to hell. Dun, dun, dun. So the party is going to be embarking on some adventures here in the wood. The ultimate goal of each member of the party is that at some point they have to fight a devil in order to achieve a full Hell Knight rank, but they also have to survive in the woods. Several other groups from the Order of the Gate have disappeared when exploring the woods and trying to kind of figure out what is going on there. So we have a little bit of danger, we've got some creepy devils, and we are going to try to achieve full Hell Knightdom.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, is there, what level would this be? Is there a chance that they like end up at the unclosed portal and end up in hell, or that'd be a bunch of awkward like armigers like
so
I
feel like I would, if I was breaking the campaign into 2 parts, I would maybe do that in a part 2.
Yeah.
I feel like I would focus part 1 on actually becoming Hell Knights.
Yeah.
And then if I wanted it to be something where you took a portal to hell, I would maybe not do that until everyone was a full Hell Knight.
Okay.
So I could see this being like a longer campaign, or one that like part 1, you're, level 1 through 3, and then we do a cutscene, you guys come back.
Right.
And then maybe we do some more stuff, but I was planning to keep the campaign in Golarion, in the Whisperwood, or in between that and the Order of the Gate Citadel.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fair. I like that.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, so when she was telling me about the campaign earlier, it's like, we'll see what Ryan has. Hopefully you're not chaotic.
I'm not chaotic. So I was very inspired from last week with the Strix.
Okay.
Oh dear.
The winged men of the Devil's Perch.
The winged men of the Devil's Perch.
The Strix, yes.
The Strix. So I made a female witch Strix.
Okay.
Okay.
And I envisioned her whole goal. So like it like talks about the backstory of the Strix, that obviously the winged men of the Perch, that they don't really get along with Cheliax.
Yeah.
So I had her being like a princess of one of the royal families of the Strix, who's like is like an agent who's been sent to like infiltrate and learn about Chelish society.
I mean, if you're going to do that, going into a Hell Knight order is probably a good way to do it.
I'll say this might actually work better than I expected. I was worried. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. I'm going to get like, I'm going to get murdered immediately.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's a witch, and I built her entire like repertoire of skills around deception and infiltration and like observation. So she's very much like a buffer, debuffer kind of person over like a direct combat person.
Okay.
Well, you picked the correct order for a spellcaster, though, so that part
That's true, yeah.
is not bad.
Well, and you're not in the order of the pyre who's hunting down witches, so that would have been weird.
Hey, I think they're only hunting down heretical witches. Not all of them.
I mean, I feel like
I don't know
Strix
that
is like probably kill on sight for them, right?
Yeah, yeah. And like by definition, if your entire ancestry is heretical to Chelish, then it doesn't matter anyway.
But I even took like there's an ancestry feat where you can like fold your wings back and make it look like you have a feathered cape on, so people don't know that you're a bird person.
Okay,
that's neat.
Yeah. So she's like totally incognito infiltrating.
I like it.
Yeah, I think she actually probably works for this. For she like joins the Order of the Gate, and I don't know how sincerely she might be.
So what type of patron did you go for her?
I took it's a patron of vengeance, I believe. So my patron is Curse.
Okay.
Curse patron.
Those are good.
And then I also like her greater lesson is the lesson of vengeance.
Nice.
So she's like totally geared around. She follows like Callistra.
Okay.
She's looking for some murder revenge at some point in her career.
Ooh.
I mean, yeah, and for a person who probably wouldn't normally pick this campaign, that was probably the best you could have picked. Like, fair. For somebody who doesn't fit, you checks all the right boxes on able to jump in on this.
Okay, yeah. So she's gonna get in there and she's gonna start looking around. You're looking for that accidental portal to hell, or that little unclosed portal to hell, and maybe if she
well, so the Order of the Gate, they also have a portal to hell in their citadel.
Okay.
So she could find lots of portals to hell if that's what she's after.
Yeah.
Yeah. She definitely would have one foot out the door immediately, at least to start the campaign. Mm-hmm. But maybe she makes some friends along the way.
Well, I feel like you could also just learn a ton if you're in the order that's summoning the devils. You can learn so much just from in talking to or working with the devils about Cheliax that like other people might not tell you, right?
Okay, yeah. So Haru actually might work. Princess Haru is gonna sneak in there and be incognito the whole time, and hopefully not get found out to be like a straight traitor to the Order.
Oh,
I like it.
That could be a good ending. How do you
or
like?
Not
she
for
has
Haru.
to,
Well,
like...
no, but like a good ending of like you're with a party. They find out later that you're kind of the heretical witch Strix that other Hell Knights, and like so. What does the party do? You have that kind of
like an Order of Pyre representative shows up.
Or just like, so you are with your group of armigers out in the woods, and then they find out you're someone else or not who you said you were, and then they have to deal with this is maybe our friend now. Do we turn her in? Do we say something to our higher ups? We're all out here in the woods and devils are trying to eat us. What do we do with this?
I might ask the GM if I played this, like, can you put a bounty on my head before the campaign starts?
Oh,
like to intentionally seed that issue,
raising the stakes.
Yeah, just so that like maybe 2 or 3 sessions in, it's like it was like the cinematic moment of like me standing next to the sitting next to the wanted poster.
I feel like that just kind of goes to show how you as a DM could have like a campaign all in your head, and then the player brings a character who you're like, that doesn't fit, but actually that's a really cool story beat. That could be a whole subplot of itself.
Well, because then what I would do as the GM is that as soon as everybody sees this wanted poster in you and makes the connection, then obviously a giant monster is going to jump right into the middle of everyone. And it's like, battle instead.
Love it.
And then Ryan, you have to make the choice of, do you GTFO
right, do I bail
out of there?
Yeah.
Or do you save your pseudo maybe friends that are like just in it to uphold the law?
Yeah, Haru's neutral good, so I feel like she'd like step in and...
So you like fake lawful. I mean, the neutral good is probably a good step of lawful you could get.
I felt like it was neutral good from the perspective of the Strix. Like,
that's true, yeah.
I'm over here, I don't worry about like killing Chelish people because...
That's fair. It'll be nice once the Edicts and Anathema of the remaster
that'll be really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, Sam, please don't hurt Princess Haru. I kind of like her.
Look, I'm rooting for her. I just... unfortunately, am on the side of the Hell Knights today.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been a very insightful and enlightening 2-part adventure through Cheliax.
Yeah.
So, of course, we need to close it out with a ranking.
Oh, yes. I mean, honestly, to visit, if you're just like there to visit, I feel like this probably isn't the worst place to go, because if you think about it, it's just like, it's kind of a normal country doing its normal things if you're just like there for a short time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like a 3 out of 5.
Well, what's our ranking?
Oh, that's a good point. Oh, Devils.
Devils? Okay, yeah, we said Devils last time. Okay.
Yeah, so I would give it like a 3 out of 5 Devils, because unless you're there living, like I can't imagine they're kidnapping and taking like tourists too often, unless you're doing some like horrible offense. I don't know.
I think I've gone down. I think I'm a 2 out of 5 now, just because it seems like, while the law part makes sense, it seems like it's so fluid and changing all the time.
That's true.
That would be challenging, because, like, who's to say you couldn't be a tourist who was arrested for breaking a law just because you looked like you might be bringing unlawful things in?
Like your papers might have been signed last month, but then the rules change and now you're stuck.
Yeah, no, that checks out. You could probably go and it might be fine, but you don't want to be that one person who like risks that.
Yeah,
If I was going for like a specific, like, oh, I'm going to go visit this Hell Knight order because my cousin Bob is in it, and I'm just gonna like go check it out, but I know somebody, I think that might like raise my my rating. But if I was just a rando just rolling in, that seems very precarious.
Yeah, Abigail II kind of scares me a little bit. I think I'm sitting on a 2, unless it's like Sam said, a specific Hell Knight order you happen to be visiting.
That's fair. I think you've convinced me. I think 2 sounds good.
Okay.
3 for the Hell Knights, though.
3 for the Hell Knights. 3
for the Hell Knights.
2 if you're not a Hell Knight. 2 out of 5 devils.
2 out of 5 devils.
Cheliax Part 2.
Well, our email is tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com. I'm actually going to read the notes this time. Our website is tabletoptravelguide.com. And then our Instagram was
at Tabletop Travel Guide.
At Tabletop Travel Guide. So we have lots of options to reach out. With that, then, Tar, Sam, I think we call it there.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Happy travels.
Safe travels, everybody.
Bon voyage.